right, y'all. So I've been instructed to fill the space while they're judging. So why don't we, while we're filling space, do the close since we're late, and then we can go to the party after they announce the winner. All right. All right. And so we have the virtual audience as well. So very sorry for in-person folks for the audio. We couldn't figure that out. It was some kind of weird interaction between virtual and facility. Virtual audience didn't have it. So most folks did hear, but thanks to the judges who can no longer hear me for adapting to that situation. All right, so was gonna fill the space with background on this competition, but I'm just gonna go ahead, fill the space with background on the competition, then all of pivot, and then close. So let's do this in 5 minutes or less. That startup competition just now with 3 oil and gas executives and a venture capitalist, that is badass. The reason that is badass is because nobody in 2020, when I invited people to judge a startup competition, would do it. And so we didn't even hold one in 2020 because I couldn't find judges. So then in 2021, we went and got Richard Branson to judge the competition. Why did we do that? Because nobody would judge in 2021 yet. So we were like, who should we go get? Who would get people excited? Oh, well, let's just try Richard Branson, right? But this is where we wanted to be with oil and gas executives engaging with oil and gas veterans doing geothermal companies. And so I would take, I mean, Richard Branson, I'm sure you're not watching, but I would take oil and gas executives and venture capitalists judging geothermal companies over Richard Branson any day, because that means engagement, right? So I call this a massive success. So the outcome of this, and I'll give some context to a comment that Danny made in the opening of this competition, which is in prior years, we simply provided the platform. Some of the startups that have won and even some that just pitched actually were able to get investments from entities who had judged the competition, which was cool, but there was no actual prize. This year, the prize is a global platform. So what we are offering the winning startup, whoever that may be, is a full expenses paid trip to COP28 in Dubai, where Project InnerSpace has, and Geothermal has for the first time ever, a main stage announcement. So for the first time ever, Geothermal will be at a COP on the stage. And I think it's a really fitting COP being in Dubai with the Middle East. Yay, yes. Really exciting. Okay, so I filled my space, but give me a minute because I'm gonna, we had an arrangement. I'm going to close the conference and we're done as soon as you announce. Cool? So like 2 minutes, building bridges. So this was a month, this conference, and many of you in the virtual audience. Who was that? Was that me talking back to me? We did this for a month. We started in the Netherlands, a lot of Europe, headed to Geothermal Congress in China. Then we headed to India, Pivot Ladakh. Then we headed to Africa. We had Pivot Kenya, Pivot Nigeria. We headed to Colombia. God help me if I forget where we've been. We headed to Colombia for Pivot Bogota, then to Calgary for Pivot Calgary, then to GR in Reno. And this was this week for a broadcast session from Geothermal Rising. But we land here for a reason, for the close, which is, it's been my belief for a long time, and I feel like it's increasing the belief here that the epicenter and the future of the geothermal industry is in Houston, because the brain trust is in Houston, and the workforce is in Houston, and the entities that are going to fund and catalyze are in Houston. So from the perspective of where we go now, Pivot was, we're out of the conference. We're out of the conference business in 2030. This is a 10-year-long conference series that's intended to catalyze stuff. And what I would like it to catalyze is more like what we saw at offshore Europe. So, oh, and I forgot, I told y'all I'd forget a location. We broadcasted from Aberdeen, and that was at offshore Europe. And that was awesome because it's an oil and gas conference, and it's probably the first time, I know it was the first time at offshore Europe, but it may be the first time at any major oil and gas conference where you had a major geothermal session on a big stage with an audience of hundreds of people who were 100% oil and gas. And some of them, I was in that audience, and some of them were like what are we even talking about here? I thought we dismissed this 10 years ago. Yeah, I know, but that's great. I love that conversation, because then there's going to be people in the audience that are like, but wait, I've started thinking about this. And that's what we want to do. That's the catalyzing, right? So this year, offshore Europe, this year, Pivot Houston, next year, we're going to aim for more engagement with traditional oil and gas conferences. And that's something to look forward to, I think. And that's where we're headed. Houston Epicenter, oil and gas conferences, let's get geothermal into those agendas, and let's get experts actually talking about this in a real and sober way. All right, cool. So thank you to Pivot sponsors. We have Baker Hughes, thank you very much. Halliburton, thank you very much. Neighbors, NOV, Chesapeake. Those 5 entities were fast movers in this space. They support Pivot and they keep Pivot free. So you can attend for free. Everything is free. Virtual is free. That's allowed us to build a global audience of over 6,000 people, 130 countries, tons of engagement, no barrier to entry. And we will do that, I swear, until the end of this decade, when then oil and gas conferences will lead the space and geothermal conferencing. All right, so after this, we're going to announce the winners. We are headed to Spindletap Brewery for beers and networking and conversation. Virtual audience, I'm so sorry you can't join us. So thank you very much for attending Pivot. Hold on for the winner. But after that, see you later, and thank you for attending. And you all, I'd love to see you at Spindletap after we're done. So thank you very much, all.
Okay, so the big moment has arrived. We have a winner. The judges were unanimous to give the prize to Sage Geosystems.
Thank you, and I'm sure all of these companies are going to continue as Sage to continue innovating. Thank you so much.
Pivot, let's go drink a beer, or bye, virtual audience. Bye, everybody.